Awesome. Yeah, in English. I would probably describe Jalal as awesome. Now, awesome is a word that has a strange character in English. We now use awesome like, I don't know, it's very cute kind of, oh, that's awesome, that's awesome. But if you think about something being, feeling a person with awe, to be awestruck, what are some things that, if I say, tell me something that fills you with awe? Not a rhetorical question, an actual question.
A gesture.
Say that?
A gesture.
Odd gesture. What's something that fills you with awe?
The sunrise.
Sunrise.
Nature.
Nature. See, when I think awe, I think more like a hurricane. Right? See, it's destructive and it's dangerous, but the power of a hurricane, the power of a tsunami, right? It's almost like, whoa, right? You know, it's like you look at the carnage, right? You're like, a force of nature did this. Whoa, that's what I'm trying to convey in awe. Whoa.
Hear more about why you don't want to take it the sublime route?
Because sublime is also like, whoa. But sublime is a word that we've softened. You know, American English has a way of softening terms and a way of, you know, and no, in fact, what I mean, all languages evolve, they change. Words, you know, words have denotations and they have connotations. So even though the word sublime, the denotation of sublime is exactly the same as awesome. Meaning what the word literally means is the same as awesome, sublime, right? But we use sublime now more in the vein of like something beautiful, something heartening, something something that you know lifts one's spirits. Because see, awesome has an element of fear in it. See, when something is awesome, there's a bit of fear in it, right? You know, إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء. The only servants of God that fear God are those that know God. But it's not the fear of something unapproachable. You know, like, I fear my mother's disapproval. I do. No, I'm not saying that it's just, I fear my mother's disapproval. Even though I know that my mother would forgive me for anything, right? But I fear her disapproval, right? When you talk about something being awesome, there is an element of fear in it. Some of it is like, oh, you know, be very careful. So even this core Islamic concept, taqwa. Taqwa comes from the root word wiqaya or waqiya, which is protection. Ittaqillah means protect yourself against the anger of God because you don't want to be there. You see, it's like, ooh, you know, it's almost like, right? And I think that in our kind of contemporary culture, we don't like things that produce those feelings of fear, right? And this is why some people love God, love talking about God, but never talk about the anger of God. That's just, it's distasteful to Americans. Like, oh, you know, we're back to like Jonathan Edwards, fire and brimstone. No, you know, who, you know, come on, man. You know, talk about God, but never talk about hell. They say that if you're giving a religious speech and you want to alienate the audience, you just talk about hell. here we go with this, right? But that's a part of it. That's a part of it. You know, if, I remember, I used to be a vendor selling things. I became Muslim and I thought, to be a regular tax-paying citizen was somehow not a full expression of being a Muslim. So my entire life became just what I could carve out on the fringes of American society, right? Maybe things were better back then. Seriously. But in any event, I became Muslim. I dropped out of college and I needed to support myself. And I was introduced to this culture of street vending, which was something prior to accepting Islam. I had never seen people sell perfume or incense, or I had never seen people hawk things on the street. I was raised to go to school, go to college, get a job. And I saw Muslims doing this. And there was something empowering about it to me. Setting their own schedules, right? Being their own bosses. And I knew that I liked to connect with people. I thought that I could be a good salesman. So I said, you know what? Rather than get a job, I can do this. So I bought some perfume, I put it in bottles, I started going around, I started selling it. That's how I used to make my living, right? Supported a wife and a daughter doing this. And I became very good at it. My name on the streets was the go-to guy. That was my name on the street. I'm the go-to guy. Anything you need. My car, go-to guy. Right? And of course, one of the coolest parts about being a vendor is that you meet so many different kinds of people. I mean, you're selling products. If you talk to everybody, white, black, rich, poor, people in the streets, people working corporate jobs, homeowners, homeless people. You name it, I engage with them. And because at that time, I was much more outwardly expressive of my commitment to Islam and the Sunnah of the Prophet. I would always wear a turban. I would always wear a jubbah. Right? And all of my pants, I used to cut them off at the middle of my shin. Right? This was 10 years, every day, right? Every day. And so I would sell to people, and they would be curious about my attire. And I took great pride in telling them, Muslim. And I was a very strident caller to Allah. I would give da'wah to everybody. If I was going to court to get a ticket, I'd give da'wah to the judge giving me the ticket. Your Honor, you are honorable. If you believe in Allah and His Messenger, you'll be even more honorable. What? Get out of my courtroom. I advise you to learn about the Prophet Muhammad. Walk out the courtroom. My man and I, we were just new to Islam. We were like, sellers. We giving da'wah to the pizza man. Pizza man dropped the piece off. My man, I'm gonna give you a tip. I'm gonna give you a tip, don't worry about it. But I want you, the first tip I'm gonna give you. Life is about more than just cheese and tomato sauce and piece of dough. He looking at me, man, you giving me some money. Well, like I told you, I'm gonna give you a tip. First, I gotta advise you to learn about the Prophet. He looking at me like, it's the most obnoxious, because it was obnoxious. But I think my heart was in a good place. So I used to carry with me translations of the Quran, not with the Arabic, because you never knew what the people would do with it. Take it, throw it in the trash, whatever. And I should distribute them. Someone was really interested in Islam, take this, read, But I would tell them, my advice to you, start from the 78th chapter of the Quran, which is the beginning of the last juz, right? Start from Juz Amr, right? Because to my mind, that would be more appealing to a modern American, right? The core concepts of life, death, judgment, accountability, observing creation. There's 29 and 30 have a very almost mystical quality to them. They're Meccan. Almost every surah in the 29th juz and the 30th juz is a Meccan surah. So it's not dealing with any rules, any if'al ma la taf'al, no, do, don't do, because something in my heart felt like that would be a put off to a modern American, like all of these rules, do this, don't do that. So I thought, let's stay away from Baqarah. A lot of rules, injunctions, but read about this first. Then you can go to Baqarah. And I was talking to one of my sheikhs, and he said, no, there's wisdom in the way the Quran is arranged, right? You think that your wisdom is superior to God's wisdom. He put Fatiha first, and then Baqarah second. So why are you telling people to read Naba first? I said, And he said, listen, in the modern world, religion has been reduced to a place of pleading with people. Like pleading with them, please recognize me, please see my significance. He said, one of the strengths of the Quran is that when you read the Quran, you know that the one speaking is utterly confident and not pleading with you. He's telling you, this is my program. You can accept it, or I got something hot for you. You can accept it, or you better dress light, because it's hot where you're going. And he said, even though this might strike us as, uncomfortable, if someone was speaking the absolute truth and they had absolute authority, how else would you expect them to speak? This isn't a dalliance. I'm not, no, it's telling you the truth. And he said, on some intrinsic level, human beings respect that, especially mature people. When you come into a job and your employer plays around with you, right, makes it seem like you guys are friends, but denies you your raises. It's like, this feels slimy. When they tell you, I'm the supervisor here, you're the associate, these are the performance benchmarks. If you do well, you'll get a 15% raise. Something in you respects that, like, boss, that's how that's supposed to go, right? You're in charge here, you told me, this is who I am, this is who you are, this is what I have to do, this is how I'll be rewarded. And then you tell me, if you can't fulfill these duties, first maybe you'll be demoted, and then eventually you'll be terminated. That's what we had. And I'm gonna live by what I just told you. Some part of you is like, straight shooter. Maybe I would have liked to kind of, person's very nice, and happy to have you, everyone's family here, it's all good, but I keep getting denied my raise. I thought we all fit, it's all good, it's all love. You bring pizza every Friday, here, have a slice of pizza, I haven't had a raise in 3 years. I don't want this pizza. No, but there's something about that it's kind of slimy. Stop playing with me. No, someone has authority, you expect them to put it on the line. This is what it is. I'm telling you. Now, God's mercy is shown in what? If you can't fulfill this covenant, but you're sincere, I'll forgive you every time you seek my forgiveness. I'll never terminate you. Every time you seek my forgiveness, I'll forgive you. But from the top of the key, I'm telling you what this is. This is where we are. Right? And he said, there's something in people that appreciate that. The name Al-Qahhar literally means the subduer. Al-Qahhar. Qahhar in the Arabic language means to bring something low. Bring something low. Al-Qahira, where I lived and studied, is from the same root. They say, تسمية القاهرة لأنها تقهر الناس. They call it Qahira because it breaks people down. Right? But the subduer. And usually God's being Al-Qahhar is always mentioned in connection with people that are arrogant. That is, you have something in English called collocation. I got all kinds of words. I hang out with Dr. Sherman Jackson, and I know all kinds of words. But collocation is the way, the way a term is typically used, right? Meaning, like, usually when we use it, it's with this. That's the collocation of the word. The way, like when we use it, we're usually talking about this, right? Usually God's being the subduer is mentioned. Usually God's being the subduer is mentioned in connection with people that are arrogant and oppressive. That if you oppress other people, if you harm other people, if you hurt other people, if you exploit other people, know that Al-Qahhar, right? Because, when you think about the real, next floor, fourth floor. Yes, it's there, one there. When you think about, and the reason this is significant, is that when you think about the harm that we inflict on other people, it's never the actual harm itself. It's the way the harm demoralizes the other person, right? So imagine somebody training with a martial arts instructor, right? They might, in the process of being trained, be hit. They may be thrown. They may be struck. They may be, they might experience some physical pain as a part of their training, but they're not going to be demoralized by that. Right? Because they understand that physical pain to be a part of training. This is how my teacher is raising me. You have to take my arms and see you twist it like that. Shit, say that hurts. Right? Or I throw the punch, you have to grab the punch and sweep my leg. Right? And you might, but when a man beats his wife, see, it's not just the physical pain, it's the demoralization. It's what you're doing something that is bringing me low. See, when the sensei is striking me, it hurts, but he's not bringing me low, right? I understand this to be a part of my training. It's like you're hitting me, you're hurting me, but this is the way that I'm going to become a proficient martial artist. When a man hits his wife, he is crushing her self-esteem. This is what really hurts. It's not the literal. I mean, yes, that hurts too, but there could be a context in which the physical pain might be something that's understood. It's the demoralization that results from it. And Al-Qahhar is a name that reminds us, if you ever do that to anybody, whether it's a child, spouse, a weaker person, a smaller person, a person in a less advantageous position, know there's someone over you that can dominate you, that can put you in that position in terms that are much more severe. You see, that's the meaning of Al-Qahhar. Al-Qahhar, we're supposed to be humbled by the fact that Allah is over us. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ رَقِيبًا. Allah is over us. Right? So when you see somebody mistreating another person, the best reminder to offer them is ittaqillah. Fear God. Fear God. In the same way you just kicked that homeless brother, right? Do you know what God could do to you? That's the meaning of Al-Qahhar. Who do you think you are? Because the only reason a person exploits or mistreats anyone else is that in this hierarchical, and it's often toxic, scheme that they operate with, they think that person is under them. That's why I can treat you like this, because you're under me. You're less than me. That's why I get to do this to you. And maybe in terms of their social status, physical strength, maybe whatever, they are under you. But the distance between you and them is nothing compared to the distance between you and God. Right? So it's like I'm, physically stronger than my brother and I could bully him. I'm just a little bit stronger than him and a lot more immoral than he is. That's probably why I can bully him. But God is unimaginably dominant over me. There's stuff that the pain that I could inflict, the harm that I could cause, is nothing. Because even if I cause that harm, it's nothing in comparison to what God could do to me. Even if I cause that harm, it would only last the extent of this lifetime. It would just be, something that affected them in the life of this world. God could cause us to suffer the consequences of what we've done eternally. Eternally. That is Al-Qahhar. Think about that. The Prophet ﷺ in an authentic hadith, he said, كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِي. All of you are shepherds. All of you are shepherds. And all of you will be held responsible over the flocks they shepherded. So all of us are, in a sense, over certain people. This, it's almost like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, رَفَعَ بَعْدَكُمْ فَوْقَ بَعْدٍ دَرَجَاتٍ رَفَعَ بَعْدَكُمْ فَوْقَ بَعْدٍ دَرَجَاتٍ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ فِي مَا آتَاكُمْ. God raised some of you above others in rank to test you in what he's given you. Now, what we don't see is that this raising some above others, it has no permanence. It goes up and it goes down. Multiple times daily, you're in an advantageous position and also a disadvantageous position. It's going around all the time, up, down, up, down, up, down. Sometimes in the course of one interaction, it goes up, it goes down. So when my mechanic takes my car in the back and he's looking at the diagnostics and seeing what's wrong with the car, he's over me. Because if he wants to exploit me, he can. I don't have any knowledge about what's wrong with my car. If he wants to abuse his power in that moment and say, your car needs a complete overhaul, $15,000, he can exploit that position of authority. Because I don't know, what can I do? It does? Oh God, this is really bad. Okay, I guess I have to pay you in installments. He was over me. Right? Even though we would think of the client as being over the service provider. The people that pick my trash up at the back of my house, they're over me in a way. If they want to leave the trash there until rats descend, they could. I don't even know, I don't even know how to dispose of the trash they didn't pick up. I don't even know what I would do with it. Where does this go? They're over me. They're over me. If they want to, they can abuse that position of authority. Okay, so I'm just not gonna call the adhan. I'm just gonna breathe on the mic tonight. Let the Muslims know I'm in here. So this, I think we tend to think of class as the definitive expression of social hierarchy. He's rich, he's poor. No. Being over and being under, it changes all the time. Very important point that I'm trying to drive home. So this idea of leadership and authority, it's something that's always alternating. It's not static, it's a dynamic reality. So in terms of, being able, like offering my wife physical protection and not physical domination and physical harm, I have,
For the class. Are you going to pray?
I know I'm muted, I'm kidding. Yeah. But Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I was saying something.
People up and down, house dynamic, how we think of class typically.
We typically think of class as a static reality. This person's over this person because they make more money, or this person works in labor, and this person's professional. That's not the way that Allah's raising people over other people actually works. It's a dynamic reality. It's circumstantial. So in one circumstance, I could be over my wife, but in another circumstance, she's over me. So if for instance, and my wife knows this, if my wife wanted to, alhamdulillah, I don't think she would ever do this, but if my wife wants to make it easier for my children to have a bad opinion, right? She says bad things about me. She tells them, your dad is like this, your dad is like that. She, if she wanted to, could injure my relationship with my children for life. That's the power that she has over me, right? Because she's with them more than I am. She says, your father's a horrible man. No, I mean, my wife would never do anything like that. But I'm just saying, I'm trying to get you to recognize that in that, it's not that the husband always has power over the wife. No, sometimes she has power over me. The reason I bring this up is in any situation in which you are the party that has the advantageous situation, know that great responsibility comes with that. Great responsibility comes with that. And remember, Allah is over you. You see, remember, just like in this situation, you're over the person. If my mechanic wants to abuse me, he can abuse me. He can cheat me if he wants to. But if he does that to me, he has to remember, Allah is Al-Qahhar, Allah is over you. Allah is over you. And just as you took advantage of me because of my lack of knowledge and my lowly position, God can do the same to you. Right? So when we talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being a subduer, it's usually a subduer in connection with people that arrogate themselves. And whenever you mistreat somebody, it's an expression of arrogance. That's one of the great insights of Ibn Ata'illah. When you mistreat someone, it's an expression of arrogance. Because what else would make you think you're entitled to do this? What else would give you the impression that you could do this to them? Right? It's like, why do you think that you can do this? Right? Why do you think, it's like, why do you think you can do that to your neighbor? Because whether you articulate it or not, you think you are bigger, better, higher, more important. You think that there's some rank that you have that is superior to them. That's why you're doing this, right? Maybe it's not even ranking. You think that you're more worthy of respect. One of the most interesting surahs in the Quran is, there are certain verses, certain chapters that when you read them, you just know this book is revealed, this book, the speaker is someone who knows the human condition. Exactly. So, wailul lil mutaffifin, woe. And woe, wail is the opposite of salam, right? Salamun ala man ittabi' al-huda. Peace be upon those who follow God. Wail is the opposite of salam. So if you greet somebody salam, it's like an invitation. You say wailun, it's like it's the opposite of salam. So wailun lil mutaffifin, in English they translate woe. Woe, which is, we have to come up with a better word because no modern English speaker says woe. Woe unto you, right? I would probably translate it, cursed is the person that does so and so, right? But the mutaffif was an interesting person. This was a person that cheated other people, But that alone does not make them a mutafif. That would just make them khadi', like a cheater, right? من خدعنا فهو ليس منا. Prophet ﷺ said, whoever cheats us is not one of us. That would just make them a khashash. Egypt, right? Ghish. And you want to eat me. In Egypt, they call it cheating, eating. So you want to, they call that's the gesture that they use for cheating someone. You want to eat me, right? The mutafif is not just the cheater. That's not the half of it. Okay, you cheat people. But after cheating people, you insist on fair treatment for yourself. So I cheat people. When people buy from me, I cheat them, right? I put a pound weight on the scale, but it's been shaved down. It's really like, like 0.95. It's like maybe 5 ounces, five something less than a pound. It's not actually a pound. So when you put the grapes on and I take my pound weight is not really a pound weight. Right, my pound weight is actually less than a pound weight. I've actually taken the time to shave it down. Still says 1 pound, but I've shaved it down a little bit. And now listen, that seems petty, right? Seems like what a petty guy. You know how much stuff I think in our society is just like that. Recently, I had to get my license reinstated, right? And I had a clean driving record. I was driving to North Carolina to take my wife down to spend time with her family. I got a speeding ticket in Ohio. 10 minutes later, I got another speeding ticket in Ohio. And it was bizarre because I was in the floor. She's wearing a hijab. I'm wearing this. I get 2 speeding tickets within like 10 minutes of each other. Then did you guys know the organization Muhsin, Muslims with Special Needs? I had a speech in Milwaukee on a Saturday. And then I had a speech with Muhsin in like Downers Grove. So I did the lecture in Milwaukee and I jumped in the car trying to rush to the lecture in Downers Grove. I got a ticket in Wisconsin. And that was just like 2 weeks after those first 2 tickets. 3 tickets in a year in the state of Illinois, license suspended. And I've been driving for more than 20 years. I had no tickets. And I got 3 tickets in the span of like a week, like 2 weeks. Lost my license. I was without a license for 3 years. I just would drive, whatever. I got you. They take me in, you got whatever. I still got places to go. Man. So look, and I got pulled over like maybe 3 or 4 times with different stuff. I just thought, you have a license? Nope. He's like, damn, you didn't even lie about it. No, man, go ahead. Right? So I had to get my license reinstated. So I had to pay a $500 reinstatement fee. But then I had to get something called SR22. I had to get SR22. And I'm like, what is this? And the SR22 was like $120 or something like that. This is insurance that you get to say it's pointless, bro. I don't know what it does because I have my own car insurance. SR22 is literally just an added tax. It's just I don't know what, like you pay for the SR22 and you have to pay for it for a whole year, right? I just said, just put the payments together, I pay the whole amount or whatever. But it's it's like 20, it ends up being like $22 a month or something like that. But you have to have it a year and they have to report to the state that you pay it every month or you lose your license again. And I'm like, okay, with car insurance, it's clear that if I get into an accident, these people will cover me, cover the other driver, whatever needs to happen. What is the purpose of this SR22? Nobody can answer. It's just what the state requires if you want to get your license again. that seems petty, but that's like shaving that pound weight. If it's just $100 from him, $100 from him, in the state of Illinois, that's millions of dollars in revenue generated just through exploiting the people. It's like, this has no purpose. What is this? But you have to pay for it. So it's easy for us to think about somebody shaving the pound weight and putting it up there. It's not really a pound. If they do that for years, right? Well, let's say it's more quantity. You know, I think about these processing fees at these banks. Like, you're holding my money, lending it out, gaining interest on it, and then you charge me a fee for me to keep it at your bank? Stuck for a long time. Like, you know what I mean? It's almost offensive. Now, I won't bank with any bank that charges a monthly fee, a service fee. You want to loan my money out and charge me to access? Man, get to bed. Come on, man. Stop it. You guys, you saw the Wells Fargo. You remember the Wells Fargo controversy? People at Wells Fargo were like, what happened? You remember what happened? They were doing something where they were just calling and like tricking people into like this added monthly service. It was like a $7, $8 a month that they would just get for something completely unnecessary. And they generated like tens of millions of dollars doing this. Because they had so many clients. So they ate every month, and they got like a 5-year run out of it or something like that. Somebody discovered it, they had to pay all of those people their money back. Somebody discovered it, like, they've been doing this for 4 years. This is just a charge that they've tacked on. And it was a big story. The Quran is eternally relevant. That's mutaffif. It's some little pilfering, some little thing that you just took off, or just some little petty theft that you engage. You cheat people just a little bit. But then on top of that, whenever someone is providing you with the service, you make sure, he puts his weight up there. No, I brought my own pound weight. It's like, how dare you? You cheat people, but then you're extra vigilant to make sure no one cheats you. That is undoubtedly an expression of arrogance. Because you think there's something about you that should not be cheated. You can't take advantage of me, but you take advantage of other people. You don't pay your debts, but when somebody owes you, you hound them. Yo, can I get paid? Can I get paid? Yo, can I get paid? Can I get paid? But you don't pay people what is that besides arrogance? A person like that must be reminded of the name Al-Qahhar. God is dominant over you. God is over you. And that should produce healthy fear. And this is a Jalali name. Whoa, be careful. Stop it, man. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. Not that I want to use their situation as some kind of teaching tool, but the earthquake in Turkey was really eye-opening on many levels. It was a real mo'ibah. It was something that gave us occasion to reflect. And when they interviewed many people that were impacted by the earthquake, many of them said, I've never been religious. I mean, it's Turkey. The Turks tend to be quite secular, on the scale. Right? I've never been religious. But that earthquake, I felt the power of God. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced in my life. Right? And that too can be rightly attributed to God. Oh man, it's serious, man. It was nothing to play with. Right? That feeling, that's jalal. That's what I'm trying to convey by awesome. Bro, it was nothing to play with. It was real. It was, whoa. Al-Qahhar is a name that should invoke some of that sentiment. Whoa, you don't want to play with God, man, because it can get really, really ugly. So when you read the story of Fir'aun, that's Al-Qahhar. Fir'aun arrogated himself, claimed divinity, wrongfully enslaved the children of Israel, right? Attempted to pursue Moses after the bayan, the clear evidence was the bayina, the clear evidence was presented. And Allah mentions that he rushed in with his army into the Red Sea and he was drowned. Right? Every time I read that story, I think, subhanAllah, probably just months before that, he was sitting on a resplendent throne, completely self-satisfied. A complete moment of delusional self-actualization. God on earth. And you know, and it's interesting because, you know, people are now using the word God very loosely. Trap God, bass God, little beat of bass God, trap God, this God, Jehovah. Jay-Z called himself Hov. Jehovah is one of the names of Allah. Right? Jehovah. God. Sometimes when we read the Quran, it's almost like we have to remember the human condition never changes. The conditions of humans change, but the human condition does not change. So when you're reading like about Fir'aun, and it starts to sound a little bit far-flung to you, would anybody say, Ana rabbukumul a'la? Would anybody say, I'm your Lord, the highest? All you have to do is look around. You have people that say that, right? God, I'm God. I mean, I've heard, you know, and what's scary about it is that many of the people that say it, I don't think they actually believe it. I don't think they actually believe it. You know, a human being is aware of her impermanence. I mean, we all know that we're mortal and that we have to die. What I think happens is that somebody gets carried away when trying to demonstrate a certain kind of power or excellence. And in their being carried away, I'm God. It's like, you know, they have a moment of like a delusional God complex. You know, they just feel so elated with what they're doing. So when I think about Fir'aun, it's almost like, you know, I mean, you know, and Allah mentions in the Quran all of the monuments. You know, if you've ever had something that you own, that you were very proud of, that when you looked at it, it brought you great satisfaction. Yeah, look at that. How about that? Imagine that being an entire kingdom, right? A kingdom that people now still travel to Egypt to see its ruins. Hello? Like, we gotta really, like, the people now travel to Egypt just to see the ruins of their kingdoms. What must it have been like to preside over them when they were active? If they're so impressive, thousands of years later, they're still impressive. And I'm like, people still go to Egypt, go through the ancient, you know, Egyptian ruins of Abu Simbel, and wow, this is breathtaking. What must it have been like to be the person at the top of all that, believed to be a living God that technically owns all of it? Imagine the self-satisfaction that he feels. You know, one of my, you know, kind of late night poetic musings is that human beings have shrunk. I think we've shrunken in our capacity for righteousness, but we've also shrunken in our capacity for evil. I believe that. I think we can become more heedless, but I think, you know, Like Elon Musk, I don't care how arrogant he gets. He can't be as arrogant as Firaun. It's like he's not as much of a, it's like it's like you can't be, it's like you can have delusional power, but not like Firaun. Not like Nimrud, right? You can be a flagrant denier of prophethood, but not like Abu Lahab. Right? You know, it's like almost like you're not good enough to be like Abu Lahab. You know, you're not. It's like you're not big enough. It's like we're you know, Dr. Omar said we're like bonsai people. Like even your evil is like it's not. It's like you're not even. Someone's like you're not even that good at being evil. Right? You're like a miniaturized human. You're not even that good at being evil. The actors in the Quran, they were really evil. Like Fir'aun is really evil, not like kind of an implicit kind of arrogance. No, we're talking like Ana Rabbukumul A'la. I'm your Lord, and A'la, the highest. It's me. You know, one of the narrations in Tafsir we have is that Musa came before him and said, but Allah yuhyi wa yumeet. Allah causes life and causes death. Fir'aun called for 2 Israelite slaves to be brought into the court. One of them he killed right there on the spot. The other was trembling and he said, go free. He said, I give life and I give death. Right? See, that level of evil is unimaginable to us. Like, what? Months after that, he's drowning. Right? He's lost everything and he's going to die in a state of kufr. Just like that. Al-Mudhil, Al-Mu'izz wal-Mudhil. Allah gives honor, Allah debases. Just like he's lost everything, just like that. Right? So whenever you are in a position of advantage, now we're talking about living with this name, whenever you feel like you're on top, remember Al-Qahhar. Don't oppress, don't exploit, don't be ungrateful. Right? In the words of the great American philosopher Kendrick Lamar, be humble. Be humble. Al-Qahhar is about be humble. Just be humble. Just be humble. Sit down. No. Be humble. That's what it means. Be humble. Right? You know, the more you arrogate yourself, the longer the fall is. It's a long way down. You put yourself up there really high, oh man, it's a long way down. It's a long way down. So Al-Qahhar is one of those Jalal names that reminds us that Allah subdues. Right? It literally means Allah brings his enemies low. Qahar means to be brought low. Right? They used to use biblical words like smite to bring someone low, cut them low. You know, and you know, whenever we read descriptions of the Day of Judgment, we read about the believers being elevated, being lifted. Right, the opposite of that. It's a you know, these are expressions of vindication, to be heralded, to be held up. You're victorious. You know, this is something we always associate with height. That's why the Arabs, they say even about physical height, bituli haiba. You know, in height there's dignity. Being short, there's defeat. Right? There's something about being held up that but it's not about being physically tall or being physically short. It's about being raised by God. Arafi'a raises the humble, and he debases the arrogant. Right? Al-Qahhar subdues the arrogant. And that's why, you know, perhaps the best expression of Al-Qahhar is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that on Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah will roll up all of the heavens, just roll them up, and ask, where are the kings of the earth? Where are they now? Right? Where are the kings of the earth? Now, you know what's interesting about that? When I hear that, I don't think about like Crown Prince Abdullah, the King of Spain that was at Wimbledon, and you know, people talking about his suit or whatever. I think about us. I think about us. I think if you look at just the lifestyles that we enjoy, the resources that we consume, I think we're the kings of the earth. I think Americans are like it's, you know, we live in ways that other people would just find unimaginable, right? I mean, even now, I mean, sometimes I marvel at this stuff, like DoorDash, man. I marvel at this stuff. That we have, you know, you can just pull out your phone, press some buttons, and the food that you just desire shows up at your door hot. I mean, it's almost paradisiacal. It's almost like being in heaven. Right? 11 cookies. Boop. You want 11 cookies? Like, no, yeah, I mean, it's true. It's like, that's some Quiznos. Quiznos? I mean, I mean, it's, you know, and I'm not, I am no Thomas Friedman. I am no capitalist shill. I am no capitalist shill. But something must be said for it, and it has been selective, and I don't think that it can be sustained by the broad generality of humanity. It would be catastrophe if embraced by the broad generality of humanity. But the way that, you know, consumer capitalism has raised living standards for some people is really amazing. I mean, you have to admit. I mean, one historian said to me, a lot of the food now that we would turn down is better than the food that kings used to eat thousands of years ago. We eat food that they would have thought unattainable. And this is stuff that we just, he said, man, kings didn't eat like you eat. People that rule, like maybe Pharaoh, the Pharaoh we're talking about, he didn't eat as well as you. He didn't have the variety and as much meat and you eat. Just think about that a little bit. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر آمين يا رب العالمين. I mean, when Zachariah came to Maryam and he saw her with fruits that weren't in season, he said, Ya Maryam, anna laki hada. Maryam, where did you get this fruit? And she said, it's the risk from Allah. You don't even realize it. You go to grocery stores and buy food that's out of season all the time. None, like if we were growing food right here in Illinois, there's some things that just aren't in season right now. You just would not be able to get them. You can go to Whole Foods and get anything you want. Pharaoh couldn't even do that. That's why Pharaoh could not even do that. Pharaoh probably ate what was in season in Egypt at the time. He probably had his pick of it, whatever I want of it. But he couldn't get something that was only grown in a completely different region, right? I mean, I've talked to regular Americans that say things like, no, flowers for my house, I have them imported from Paris every week. Did you hear, it's just like, say alhamdulillah, it's like, did you hear what you just said? The flowers that I use for my house, I have them imported from Paris every week. Man, I'm lying.